Okay, so this is part 3 of our
Are we sure?
Our 30th anniversary Star Trek: Next Generation USS Cuchulain-Cast.
I think we were too ambitious to think 1.5 hour.
One half, yeah.
Yes.
Going to cover 30 years of our lives, something that's so important to us. And of course, I think we're coming up to at least an hour of footage right now. But we did actually do, if you're coming in on this episode, we did actually do about 45 minutes earlier on, and no sound recorded. It was wonderful. But we're back in the groove now, and we're talking about the wonderful stuff of the Next Generation. So what we were talking about there at the end of the last bit?
We had just finished on kind of how you felt after.
Yeah, it was how do you feel when the show finished?
Well, you had actually mentioned as well, who spotted the changes or the.
Oh, sorry, that's right. It was all good
errors
things.
in all good things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as technically minded, so I didn't spot those.
Oh, I only spotted them I spotted the captain's chair ages ago because that's a glaringly obvious one.
Yeah.
But Data's rank pips actually only spotted it on the Blu-ray.
I mean, some of that stuff you probably want to be in the industry to spot all of that. The only thing I remember spotting, and everybody spotted the same thing, was Tasha Yar's wig in the first season.
Tasha Yar's wig.
Yeah, there's a scene in it where they get hit by a torpedo or whatever it is. They jumps forward and the hair goes. Whereas in the actual first season, she had a much shorter, tighter cut.
Oh right, okay. I'll have to look out for that one. I didn't particularly spot that one. No, that's good. I do like these bloopers, and sometimes when you record something and it is the best shot, when you watch it for the first time, you don't notice because. You shouldn't notice because you're engrossed in the storyline. But when you're watching something for 30 years, that's and it's
that's the point as well, though, isn't it? I mean, when you air a show, you're airing it with in mind of seeing it for the first time, and not a lot of that, and most of it is not going to get spotted. It's only with repeated viewings, and because you become such fans of it, you go, oh yeah, see, that's not quite what it should be.
Well, hang on, but yeah, exactly. You're dead right. And the thing is, we're watching. I watched the show. I watched the last episode 2 days ago. It's it's 23 years later, but it's still being watched. People still watch it on home video, watch it on Netflix. If you're a fan of the show, you watch it and you rewatch it, and we forgive those foibles. It's fun to point out and go, oh, I spotted that, but at no point is it with animosity.
No,
it's at no point going, oh, that show is terrible. Did you see the mistakes that they made? No,
it's kind of like the stormtrooper in New Hope, isn't it? And clanking his head, Everybody loved it, even though it was a mistake. So I
never saw that until it was pointed out to me.
Put the sound in.
Oh, really?
George Lucas went back and put the sound in your mouth.
Which version of that? Because there's about 6 versions of that movie.
Everyone seems to refer to that particular scene in Star Wars. The one that gets me, though, is there's a scene where Darth Vader is speaking to, I think it's Grand Moff Tarkin, and he's speaking, and then a couple of seconds afterwards, his hand goes. So it's a scene where they didn't time the gesture and the dialogue correctly, and I don't really hear.
So James Earl Jones' voiceover is different to David Prowse going
blah 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 blah, but he's going blah 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 blah.
I'll have to watch that one again. But to talk about Star Wars for a second, could you imagine James Earl Jones going along talking like this? You're part of a rebel alliance and a traitor. No. So
but
that's not his accent.
You do forgive those little things that creep in, and they become kind of part of the ethos. Of the show. You look out for them and you introduce people who haven't seen them to them.
Yeah.
Watch this bit.
Check this out. I love all that. But you love seeing a show that you love and you knowing that. I think there's so much about what we're into and the love that we have of it that makes us go into this detail even so many years later, and there's so much on it's tough to say television these days because you watch it on a monitor. It's not television anymore, and you've got VOD, video on demand, you've got your DVDs, you've got your Blu-rays, and Netflix, and the Americans streaming services. Like the Americans have Hulu, and there's also Amazon Prime, and Netflix, and
now CBS All Access.
Well, CBS All Access, which is showing Star Trek in the States. The rest of the world get it on Netflix. So we're happy with Netflix. We'll keep it on Netflix. Thank you very much. And because there's so much of American Netflix that we don't get.
Yeah.
You know, it's just separating the markets, which in a global, in a world of the global internet, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
So, and then they wonder why there's pirating and VPNs and, you know, people wanting to see shows at different times when it hasn't been bought by a television station over here. It's like, you know.
Interesting you should say that, because I was watching a YouTube thing there recently, and it was certain things you don't know about Netflix.
Right.
And one of them was that Netflix monitor what's being pirated as well.
Yeah.
And they sort of look at that and go, okay, that's what these people are watching, and we'll see if we can target that particular country and what they're pirating, and maybe drop our prices a little bit, or so we'll start airing shows kind of like, I mean, it gives them information as to what is popular out there.
Country wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, that's it. Like, there's a certain TV show that I work on. I'm not going to mention it here, but they know how successful it is because it's one of the most pirated shows in the world.
It's an interesting phenomenon now that they use pirating as a bar to measure how successful a series is.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you know, and I think,
and we're not like condoning.
No, we
don't. We
don't condone pirating.
You know, it's just that
or torrenting.
You know,
legitimate
production companies are actually using them as a bar to measure how successful or how popular something is.
Wait, don't pirate this podcast, because we actually use the viewing numbers to see how well we're doing. And if you pirated, this is not monetized. You won't get a commercial breakdown here.
Yeah, just like and subscribe.
Just like and subscribe. Do your best. Yeah, the interesting thing is, I think in the grand scheme of things, like way back in the day, we spoke about, you know, we'd have to get the tapes over from the States sent over, and it would be a whole year in advance. I think by the end of Deep Space Nine, because we ran the end of Deep Space Nine event here in Dublin in August 1999. In the Winds Hotel in Dublin, and we got our hands on the last 8 episodes of Deep Space Nine. So, and we didn't know you at the time, Al.
I was at it though.
Were you?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
You're joking.
I was at that. I've been to a couple of events in Winds Hotel.
No, I mean, were you at that one? Because we
ran it.
We ran that.
Was that you guys?
That was us.
DMZ events we were down.
Yeah, DMZ events. Yeah. That is sorry. This is what's great about this podcast. You were at that. That's fantastic.
I was also went to the showing of Voyager, the premiere
Voyager
in Winds Hotel as well.
I wasn't at that one, no, because I saw Voyager. Voyager was premiered for me at was it VisiCon or no?
Yeah, there was only about 14 guys in the room.
Oh, really? No, I don't know whether I saw Voyager. I remember seeing Deep Space Nine at Time Warp. In Malahide, and with Majel Barrett Roddenberry, she introduced that one.
That's Time Warp 2.
That was Time Warp 2.
And I remember Time Warp 1. Seeing
George Takei.
Relics.
Yeah. Relics for the first time
was aired there. Yeah.
But that's no. Sorry, I'm still crazy that you were actually at our event.
It's a small world, isn't it?
That was 18 years ago, man. Yeah. That's brilliant. I'm chuffed about that. I'm thrilled about
Thanks
that.
Thanks for doing that, lads.
Well, you know, but this is the thing we used to do, because it would bring people together, right? Yeah. And okay, we didn't know each other as well then, but we do now, which is wonderful. But this is what.
And again, that's what the USS Cuchulain is about as well.
But that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do with this cast as well. And we're trying to, you know, we're the biggest club within Starfleet, the International Star Trek Fan Association. We have 100 members, 100 active members, 600 members on Facebook, and we're making, you know, we're recanting here, and we're hoping it's entertainment to help bring other people together and share our memories, because going back to the you know, doing the video days. By the end of Deep Space Nine, I think because Sky One had become a big player in the UK and Ireland at the time, they had managed to close the gap to about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think when we were doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer stuff later on after Star Trek Infinity, we tried Voyager, but we were only getting about 15 people to come to see the Voyager episodes, and it wasn't, for the amount it cost us to rent the room, we were putting our own money towards it, but it was too much money for us to put towards and for the other people. We'd only take money at the door just to pay. Everyone was sharing equally the rental of the room, so we could do this. There was no money made. Like we were never in it to make money for ourselves. Nothing ever went into our pockets. It was all just to kind of bring the people together and pay for the space for us to hang out in, and that's what we were doing. And we're lucky enough to be such a small country. Now that's not a thing anymore. Like because of VOD and the way things are running now, we don't have to do that anymore, and it's all about getting together and recanting memories in person. We don't have videos running anymore, but that was a big part of fandom back then. You would always have, especially on this side of the planet, you would always have the video room, and the video room would be running episodes, and there would be the people who lived in there, and that's what they did. They hung out and watched the videos.
And as you say, that was driven by the fact that we had to wait so long.
Yes,
to get the latest episodes. You know,
like the early Cuchulain parties that I used to attend. You would have the video.
We'd have the video.
We did, yeah. We kind of, when we started it, we kind of followed the old format. You know,
so much better.
Aside from the party aspect of it, but like it was, we followed that old format for a little while, like, you know.
It just kind of fell off.
It fell off because you'd have maybe 2-3 people sitting watching.
Everyone would, like, the episode would be running. You'd start off watching it for 5 minutes, and then people start chatting because you'd have seen it 3 or 4 times already.
As you say, it's all accessible now. You've got the DVDs and you've got Netflix and you've got all of that. Like, you know what I mean? So everybody has their copy now, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We have the Artemis that we use at the parties now, and that's kind of drew a lot of focus away from watching the episodes. People. Yeah. I'm going to fly the ship rather than watch
and
the ship.
We've got our wonderful console. We don't have it on display for this particular podcast. The last 2 podcasts have been done beside it. But we had, which I was pretty chuffed about. We have some young blood at the Cuchulain parties. We have those 3 girls, the triplets, and they played Artemis for 5 hours. They just took control of that bridge, and they were off doing missions.
And they are good at that.
They were good at that game. I mean, they didn't blow up once. I had that. There was a certain difficulty set, but once they discovered that the comms panel gives them missions, they were off flying off the ships and then destroying bad guys and then come back and refueling. They were having the times of their lives, and it's their parents that have introduced them to Star Trek. And interestingly enough, for those members of the Cuchulain, they haven't seen The Next Generation properly.
Have they not?
No. That's one of the shows that they're excited to see. They've seen the classic series, the animated series, and Voyager. Yeah. So their introduction was Voyager.
Yeah, but I thought their favourite was Deep Space Nine.
Their favourite's Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, because they almost won the quiz with their Deep Space Nine knowledge.
Yeah. I remember being that age and knowing that much about Star Trek as well.
Yeah. It's all... the Cuchulain's chief of staff, she's watching DS9 for the first time as well.
Oh, really?
And I'm so jealous. It's like, I'd love to be watching it for the first time.
What season is she on right now?
She's on about halfway through. No, she's on the final episode of season 3. So
season 3. Okay, it gets better from here. It gets.
I'm like, stick with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and just to go off TNG just for a moment. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about Discovery. So because it's been so long since I've got the chance to watch something new.
12 years.
Yeah, it was exciting. Like, remember when we did the Enterprise
2001 with Vaughn Armstrong.
Yeah, like,
we had the pilot of Enterprise,
and a few episodes.
Because
2 or 3 episodes was it?
We had 6.
6 was it?
One of them, I think one of them didn't play because for whatever reason it didn't work out. Technical issues. I don't know what they're like. We don't have them today.
No. Some space interference.
Vaughn, and we said before, Vaughn came over for just 36 hours. I wish we had the money here in this country and the amount of interest to bring him back, because I always felt bad that he was only in the country for so long. But he came off an episode of Enterprise, got on a plane. I asked him to bring something with him. I said, "Can you bring something with what?" He told me he was playing a Klingon when I was emailing him about coming over, and I said, "Is there any way you can?" Fully knowing that most of their heads and stuff like that were disposed of afterwards, is there any way you can bring something from your shoot day to us? And he brought his prosthetic nose of a Klingon. I can't remember what episode he was shooting at the time. I think it was, but it's easy to find. Vaughn Armstrong is Klingon in Enterprise, Admiral Forrest himself, and he brought his nose, and we auctioned that off.
Cool.
You know, and again, that was an event that just we broke even.
Yeah,
we were literally paying for the Royal Marine Hotel and bringing Vaughn over for people to meet Vaughn, and he was so gracious. He didn't care how much he made or what he was, how many autographs, how many photos in the photo shoot he made. He came over to Dublin, met 100. We only had 100 people, 100 fans, and because we didn't have social media back then, we couldn't get as many people as we would have liked. I don't know how the guys in Time Warp in 1992 managed to get. They were the biggest event in Europe at the time. 93.
Because when that happened, I was living in the UK.
Were you?
And I got wind of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
community. Yeah, the community they had. I'd love to chat. I think I still know one or two of them. How did you get that so widely announced that you had 1,000 people in Ireland? Because I tell you, it's to get 100 people
I think
was a struggle.
I think it was helped with the fact that TNG was still airing, though.
Yes,
you know what I
mean.
In
the middle of the whole thing.
We were in the height of Trek at that stage.
Yeah,
we were actually
Relics. So season 6 of TNG, because they were showing Relics. So I think Deep Space Nine had started.
Is Relic season 6 or season 5?
Season 6. Season 5 is the Spock unification
1 and 2.
So season 6 for Relics. But so we're in the height of Trek.
Yeah.
I think fatigue hadn't even started.
I think in 2001 when we brought Vaughn over, it was a new show, but I think the fatigue was setting in, and that was the death knell for Enterprise itself, even though it ran 4 years. I even Brandon Brogdon, one of the behind the scenes Blu-ray thingies on the Blu-rays of Enterprise, did say that when he did an event in the UK, people were going, "Why is it being cancelled? Why is it was still over this side of the pond? We were still excited about the stuff and seeing the new stuff and wanted to see more, but the way executives look at TV shows and stuff in the States, they have a completely different way of reviewing numbers and how much is spent, and the numbers weren't what the numbers used to be on the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine or even Voyager, so they decided let's cancel our losses.
Even though the numbers were technically healthy, but they just weren't to the standard of other shows at the time,
To go back to the Next Generation, because that's what we're trying to do in this multi-part podcast, USS Cuchulain-Cast repeat recording. So you asked earlier on in the unrecorded podcast, who's your favorite character?
It's still I'm undecided. For a long time it was Riker.
Okay.
After the beard.
After the beard.
Before the beard, he was a bit of a tool. But, after the beard, he kind of calmed
facial hair
down.
Makes
he
all
became
the
a bit more.
Yeah.
He
kind of shade mine.
Became more relaxed or something. It's just in the first.
Well, I think at the Las Vegas panel for the 30th anniversary, Marina, he wasn't there, but Marina said they were allowed to. There was a point where the actor and the character started to merge.
Yeah.
And the beard was very much Jonathan.
Yeah.
The beard was very much Jonathan Frakes.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It made him look more kind of...
Ensign babyface.
Yeah. It made him look more commanding or something, It's to have
exactly.
that beard. But yeah.
Absolutely. And
characters.
You said it there, Marina said that before season 3 they weren't allowed to maybe express themselves in their characters.
Yeah.
And that again goes back to when Roddenberry pulled away,
and
his influence, and Rick Berman coming in and just sort of saying we need to do more with this and allow it to develop.
Everyone
don't keep it as a mirror image of TOS, but to kind of have its own identity, and that's where it grew.
Well, everyone relaxed into their roles and could. But I think at that point as well, they were able to suggest things a little bit easier. They weren't scared actors going, "I don't want to lose my job."
Yeah.
They were, I'd love to put this in, or and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, they were getting chances to direct.
Well, that's part of the Paramount system.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
That's part of the. I talk a lot about that to colleagues that I think I mentioned before. There was an interview with Colin Meaney on the panel with Dara O'Brien, which was an Irish show. It was a great show, missed show. But every year in the Paramount system, an actor would get options for advancement. You get a pay rise, an opportunity to direct an episode, write an episode or produce an episode. And a lot of them took the chance to direct because they knew their acting career may not be what it is at the moment, and look to the future. So you've got a lot of them who became directors out of it. Patrick Stewart did A Fistful of Datas. Jonathan Frakes did what did he do? Frame of Mind, but he did a lot of stuff, and then he did the movies. LeVar Burton, he became a director out of it. I can't remember what episodes he did in Next Generation, but he's done so many of Voyager and Enterprise. I think did he do Deep Space Nine? And Roxanne, well, she was Roxanne Dawson Biggs, but I think she's just Roxanne Dawson now. She
Gates
directed
McFadden, I think.
Gates did Genesis. Gates McFadden did an episode of Genesis. The episode called Genesis in season 7. That's why she got spit in the face with acid. So they could write her out of the episode, so she could concentrate on directing. She's doing some stuff in theater now. She's in the States. She's gone back into theater. So those opportunities, and if once you in SAG rules and Screen Actors Guild rules and stuff like that in the States, once you get the opportunity to direct one, you can join the Directors Guild, and once it's a whole sponsorship union thing. But then you can continue on, and Voyager's Robert Duncan McNeil, he became a producer out of it, and he produced the entire series of Chuck. I think he appeared in one episode as well. So there's those avenues that you could, using your experience on a show for those 7 years as an actor, they gave you the opportunity to spread your career wings and give you more opportunities. Or you could take a pay rise. And Colin Meaney has admitted in the past he took the pay rise. You know, he was supporting his mother back here in Ireland. He'd kids to send to college. So he was going to go, no, I'll take the paycheck. Thank you very much.
I'm a working actor.
I'm a working actor. I act. You know, I don't tell everyone else what to do. I just act. You know, so
is Riker still your favorite character then?
But see, that's the thing. It was a Riker Picard kind of a choice, you know, and I still couldn't put my finger on one specific. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think when I was watching the show originally, it was probably Riker. You know, he was the new Kirk, really, like, you know what I mean, prancing around and all that kind of stuff, but mounting chairs, all that, like, but
Lady of the
now,
Week.
Now
Lady of the Week.
Now it's the more, as I watched it in reruns and all the rest of it, it's more the ensemble.
Yeah,
I think, you know, it's achieved something even TOS hasn't achieved, and none of the other shows achieved to the same level. Is that sense of they've really gelled? You know what I mean? They're.
But I like that thing. You were saying about Riker being the man of action.
Yeah.
I like that they'd obviously listened to fan criticisms over the years of TOS, saying, you know, the captain's always gone down to the planet and putting himself in danger.
Yeah. How stupid is this?
Yeah. So they obviously listened and said, okay, the captain stays on the ship, and the first officer goes down and does what he's supposed to do. You know.
Yeah. And so the first officer does that instead. But but I think it's the ensemble. Like as the show went on and they grew into their roles, each and every one of them really contributed to the whole thing. Like, you know, I mean, I like Diana. There was Warfare. There was none of them that I didn't like. Yeah. You know, and
there was.
So it's hard to pick one that specifically.
Yeah. When I was growing up, obviously the introduction for me, the character, a lot of people hated him. And there was a lot of animosity towards him, and I think it was why Will eventually left the show. Will Wheaton, Wesley Crusher was the character that was written into the show and he did exactly what the character was written in for. To entice the younger audience. Yeah. In the unrecorded version of this podcast, I mentioned that he, there was the Naked Now. He went down to the engineering and he pulled out all the isolinear chips with the chief of the day, and put up the force field, and then took control of the Enterprise. And a lot of people were like, how can a kid do this? And I believe from the time, whereas I was watching that going, that is something I'd totally do. Yeah. And because I was 8. Yep. And Wesley was, he's a kid and he gets to fly the Enterprise, or he's on the bridge, and so that character was there for people of my age.
And I think he probably resonated with people of that age, definitely. I mean, I didn't hate that character. Obviously I was being that much older, was more interested in the main cast and the older characters, but I didn't have any animosity now, I have to say, towards Will Wheaton, or towards Wesley Crusher. So, I wouldn't have found him the most interesting character, but I never got the hatred towards him.
Didn't they try a similar experiment with Sequest DSV? They had a precocious team.
Oh, they had Jonathan Brandis,
and it didn't work.
Again,
that
see,
time as well.
it was again 1993 was when Sequest season 1 came out.
Yeah,
and Sequest was Star Trek underwater.
Yeah,
but at the time for me, it was perfect. I was like, oh great, more episodes in a different way. I loved Sequest season 1. It's Star Trek: The Next Generation done on the water.
Yeah.
You've got the late great Roy Scheider. The late Jonathan Brandis.
That's right.
He committed suicide at the age of 27. Poor chap. But that character, again, he was there for the age group that I was in. I was 13 when Sequest came out, and I loved the character of Lucas Wallencheck and his friendship with Darwin the dolphin. Darwin loved Lucas. Bridger play. But that whole kind of character interaction that was for the family element of the show. It was Captain Bridger. It was the father and son characterizations. The father, the son, and the pet. So it was dad, the son, and the dog on the farm. That's what works with Middle America.
Yeah,
and that resonates with them. And then you had Dr. Westphalen. She was the mom. So it's all this family element, and it grabbed everybody at that time in the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. That sensibility, after so many recessions and the hardships of the 70s and stuff like that, and coming out of the kind of people breaking it was coming away from the early 80s and all the Vietnam heroes, because Michael Knight was a Vietnam hero. MacGyver was a special forces. The A-Team were all Vietnam vets. And just so many shows in the 80s were based on Vietnam vets coming back and doing crazy wild things because they were dealing with post PTSD. So we started getting back into family stuff in the late 80s and early 90s, and Sequest came along because of The Next Generation. And written by, I think it was one of the producers was Rockne S. O'Bannon, who eventually did Farscape, was another wonderful show. But Jonathan Brandis' character with the floppy hair, I always wanted his hair when I was 12 and 13. I was like, how does he have hair like that? I want hair like that. My hair was just dead straight.